Now, why do you want another 4 years?
Because I don't trust anybody to do as good a job as I do, to be honest with you. I'm a very detail-oriented person. I work hard. I like working for Carol, and I like digging into details. And that really is what makes the difference in leadership. You know, leading from the front, not from behind.
Have there been any surprises in your first term that you like, oh, I didn't know it was going to be like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because I was naive. I still don't consider myself a politician, but I guess by path I am. I thought that all these capital projects that we did, we just had the money for. You know, you collect taxes and you do projects, but turns out every one of them requires funding. If not every one of them, but most of them do. And that tends to slow things down a little bit. But we've gotten to the swing of it. I mean, we were up over $20 million in grants last year, or this year. No, last year was over 20. I think we're still at 20 right now. And thank God for those. I mean, if you think about it, the stormwater project that we're doing on Orange Street, it was about $8.5–9 million. The locals have told me that's the first major storm project they have ever seen in the city. So thank goodness for those grants. And in fact, thank goodness for the Department of Commerce, because we came up short for about $800,000. And had we not established a relationship with Columbia, the Department of Commerce, we would have been hurting to try and find that $800,000, but they came to our rescue, and they've been good partners with us. I think the fact that we've been able to open up the doors and have a relationship now with Columbia, with the county, it just, you know, that synergy, that cooperation is just so imperative going forward when you look at what the future holds here for Georgetown. You know, fiscal responsibility is our ethos, and that doesn't mean cutting costs. That means, for instance, giving all our staff a competitive wage. If you look at what we've done, not just with police and fire alone, is about $4 million. But if you look at what we did for public works, we can't do without public works. Everybody in the office, all the back office, we need to give them a competitive wage, because it was just a revolving door. And then we had to take that philosophy on and use it on every decision. Something as little as trash trucks. When I first took office, you know, every year we buy a $350,000 trash truck, it seems. So I asked Sandra Udisi, what's the future of garbage, of trash? And she looked at me quizzically, and I said, well, when I was a kid, we had 3 guys on a truck. Here we are, 60, 70 years later, we still got 3 guys on a truck. What did we do? We finally went to the one-arm trash truck. So we got 2 free FTEs, full-time equivalents. We took 2 guys off the truck and redeployed them on another operation, the bulk pickup. So it's just that mentality, you know, when you have to look at the ROI on every decision we make. When the last administration sold the electric building, that was great. I shuddered at it because there was no exit strategy, no replacement. So, but we looked at it hard, and instead of just moving the electric department, we consolidated it with Public Works, and in the future we're going to put our service operation over there. So we took something that was a really big challenge, and we've turned it into a really economic opportunity for the city.
Well, let me ask you about that, since you brought it up. Is the old armory on Church Street that used to be the electric department, that was sold, and the property next to it was sold. But nothing's happened. Have you heard what's going to happen with it?
Well, it's interesting. Mr. Kossoff, who owns that property, I met with him over there a couple, 3 weeks ago, and he's done a marvelous job renovating the pavilion and the armory as an event space. And he has really done a super job with it, and I think it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for the city. He does own the property on the side, and he is still looking at residential units looking over the marsh, as well as possibly some retail on the frontage there on Church Street.
But why haven't we seen anything yet? Any progress on that yet?
I don't know. I don't have the purse strings to drive it, but he's very much engaged with the property. I see him over there, and we talk about it all the time, and I think the stars just have to align. Right. Interest rates are a little high right now. Maybe he's looking for a little better money.
Well, let me ask you more about what you might know about, and that's way in the distance, the building behind you that used to be Liberty Steel.
Right.
It's coming down. There's a big gap in it right now that we can see. What do you think may happen with that property?
Well, I can tell you what Jim Clements would do with it. How about that?
There we go. Okay, what would you love to see if you had your wish list?
Well, the ULI study was a wonderful report because it not only dealt with development of the property, but it dealt with economic solutions for the city of Georgetown. So what that means is a diverse development that includes not only housing, but a variety of businesses as well. You know, Georgetown was built on the back of IP and the steel mill, and that was a good thing. But you see where we are right now. That focus worked well then, but now with the way the world operates, if you've not read the book The World is Flat, it's a good book you should read, because we were all interconnected globally. And so I would like to see on that particular piece of property, as I said, residential, entertainment. I would love to see a university open up an extension here. I think particularly dealing in marine and you know, it's all facets of employment opportunities. And you know, not everybody wants to work in retail, not everybody wants to work in hospitality, not everybody wants to work in an office. We need to have some diversification. I think light industry is very important here. You know,
and light industry can come there, right? I mean, we're days away from the zoning changing.
It's a walk-on. Yeah.
What is light industrial compared to what the steel mill was?
Well, in my mind, it's assembly. For the steel mill was obviously a heavy industry in terms of making steel, but they also had a fabrication line. Unfortunately, they tried to put in a welded wire fabric line and a rebar line, but they couldn't find they couldn't find local employees to support that, is what I was told. Mm-hmm. But that's a finishing line. So to me, it's more of an assembly process. You know, light welding, stamping, and things as such. Heavy industry, for instance, I deal in a lot of large manufacturing plants, plastic extrusion, metal stamping. Those are, but I don't necessarily call those heavy. To me, they're more light industry because they're clean. Mm-hmm. They're clean. That said, you know, the county's got 1,200 acres of IP property. Perhaps there's an opportunity for heavy industry, but you know, it's a pretty competitive world in that marketplace right now. So it'd be interesting to see if somebody's pro forma would actually support that.
Well, since you are in the business that could benefit from light industry, are you willing to say right now you would not personally do anything to benefit from?
Yes, I can tell you right now. Okay. I was supposed to retire 3 years ago, but a client who I've worked with for 12 years asked me to stay on for a couple, 3 projects, and I have worked right now well in excess of $100 million, taking me through March 2028. Mm-hmm. So I have more work than I want to do right now as a project manager.
Okay, so you don't see this as, oh man, maybe I can do something.
Now, let me just say this.
Okay.
I have been heavily involved in almost 50 years of development and construction in master planning. Mm-hmm. I don't know everything, but I know quite a bit. I would like to be involved from the city standpoint and from the public support standpoint to make sure that we have that diversification in that master plan that we need so that all are benefited.
But that would be just as a city council member.
As a city council.
Not getting paid for it.
Oh, no,
okay.
no.
So you don't see any way that you would benefit personally from...
No, I don't. Honestly, I don't want it.
Okay.
To be honest with you.
Now, let me ask you this while we're on the subject of the steel mill. You have received some pushback from, I think it's a citizens, for one of the citizens groups on Facebook. You received some pushback from one of the citizens groups on Facebook about, not a letter you wrote, but a letter your wife wrote about international paper, and not sad to see it go. You know, you're getting sort of some of the blame for that. Mm-hmm. What's your answer to people saying, you know, we're not going to vote for him because of something his wife wrote?
Well, Scott, let me just say this. Whenever you make a decision at home, or I make a decision at home, I sit down with my wife and we talk about it, because it's a partnership. And I learn from the other side, right? My wife comes up with something, or your wife says, well, you want to buy a new car? She wants to talk about the pros and cons, model, price, all of those things. When there's a decision as large as the IP's redevelopment, it is important that we understand all sides, because we learn in the process. When my wife wrote that email to Goldfinch, she expressed concern on a number of matters. One is that the city has no ownership in that property, but the city has all the pollution, all the traffic, all the noise. When there is a fire or a police emergency over there, it's not the county that gets there first, it's the city that gets there first. So where is that quid pro quo? Okay, and that's a very important thing. And she also brought up, which became a matter of some prominence, is the health aspect for the citizens on the West End. Now, you may not agree with what my wife said, but I would think people would say, oh, I didn't know that there was a health issue, or I thought the city owned all of that, right? And that's the type of analytical thinking that I would like to see more of us use. Unfortunately, social media has made everything so very, very tribal. If you don't like what I said, go away, right? Or worse yet, put my address out on Facebook, or don't vote for him because my wife expressed the other side of the story.
If you were writing the letter, would you write it any different?
I probably would not have written the letter, to be honest with you, because I'm in the middle of everything. So I kind of know what's going on both sides. And I know Mr. Goldfinch, and I know him pretty well. We have good representation. Most importantly, I wouldn't have written it because at the end of the day, we have no control over it. We have zero control of it. That's a piece of private property. Whoever's going to buy that is going to have the best price. And per my conversations, our conversations with IP, they want somebody that they know will complete the project. And I think that is the most important thing. And I think the last time you interviewed me coming out of a council meeting, I told you that we could opine on all these options and get mad at each other, but we have really no control over it. Once that property is sold, if it's in the city, again, how much support, if it's not in the city, how much control do we have it even then, right?
Let me ask you about the three different properties. The steel mill first.
Yeah.
When do you think we may hear something about what will happen?
The last I heard was first quarter next year, but
Okay.
I think that'll be sooner, to be honest with you. The rumors I've heard is they're down to just a couple of people.
The port property and the IP property, how much input would you like the county to get from the city when making decisions about that, even though it's not in your jurisdiction?
Well, let me say this, and I made this very important ever since we had that first breakfast together with the legislature. I forgot what it was, that legislative breakfast, and we were talking about the IP has just been sold, and we're talking about potential uses there. And at that meeting, I brought up that you got 1,200 acres of IP property, 90 acres of steel mill, and a couple hundred acres of port property. They need to work together for the greater good. There has to be synergy that rolls through that. If you don't do that, then it's going to be a failure, in my mind.
They have to blend in together somehow.
Yeah, they have to blend in together.
Yeah.
They have to reciprocate.
Right.
For instance, the county is looking at an educational opportunity, which I think is fabulous. I would love to have more educational opportunities in here. But that synergy is so important. So I think it's in everybody's best interest, not only the developers, but the county, for us to work together. And I'm very excited about their RFP process. I think I posted something on Facebook. The items that they're looking to see incorporated, I thought were very, very positive. So I'm very hopeful that we're going to pull all this together, because you have to think about it. We're not planning for 5 or 10 years. We're planning for 100 years. The IP is there for 87 years, right? Just came down. We've got to be planning for 50, 100, and beyond, right?
Well, another big topic that's been talked about by a lot of people, for the past couple of years is electric rates. Let me just ask you this. What can City Hall, City Council do about electric rates?
We have arguably some of the most competitive rates in the state of South Carolina, second only to Greenwood, South Carolina. If you were living in Easley, South Carolina right now, you're paying 30% more than the citizens of Georgetown. So unless you want to move to Greenwood, that's the only place you're going to find cheaper electric rates. To me, the focus is not electric rates. We have to improve sewer and water. And you say, why? Here's the problem. Here's the challenge. Our wastewater plant can handle over 12 million gallons a day. We use about 1 to 2 million gallons a day. If we get a big deluge of a storm, we may process 6 million gallons due to the infiltration. So we have this fixed capacity. This, I won't say it's a burden, it could be a blessing if we can find customers to use it, but we've got this fixed capacity that is prevents us from being as economical as possible in terms of that. Water is the same way. We have 4.5 million gallons of water on standby every day. We can process twice as much of that. Again, that's a huge fixed cost. So my hope is that we will continue to modernize the plants to try and get them as efficient as possible, but I'm hopeful that we can find more customers. If we can, I think it can be argued that we have some pretty high wastewater and water rates. I would like to see those rates come down. I would like to see us, through economies of scale, I would like to see us maybe look at a system where there is a threshold, a user threshold. If you're a big user of water, you pay a higher rate. A smaller user of water, you pay a lower rate. Same thing with the wastewater. So I think we have to find some economies there. So unfortunately, electric.
How do you do that without annexation? How do you get new customers?
Well, annexation is one option, and that is being explored. But we've just recently been contacted by another water district to buy water from us. So we have this capacity.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if people know that, but we sell capacity right now to Georgetown Sewer and Water.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. One of the challenges that the county, with the 1 cent sales tax they just passed, they want to invest another $30 or $40 million in Georgetown County Sewer and Water. That's probably not the best thing for the city of Georgetown, but I'm determined to find some economies. Well, let's just talk about the election. I think your viewers, who I certainly respect all of them, and I respect their opinions that don't agree with mine, I want them to think about how deep a bench do you want to have representing the city for the next 4 years with all that is going on. And I think it's very, very critical. I mean, my experience is very unique to the operation, that's fine, but we're all business owners, we're all focused, we're all very fiscally responsible, and we are determined to see the future of Georgetown grow and to diversify. And I would like nothing better to get more businesses here, to take the onus of the property taxes off the back of the residents, because we don't have businesses. You know, building houses is great, and we need houses to attract businesses, but houses use our services. Businesses pay taxes and use very little services. So we have to find that blend, that mix. That's why the two are so very, very important. Mm-hmm. And what was your other question? I'm sorry.
Well, let me ask this before we drift off the topic too much. The steel mill property, whatever happens to that, it's going to be different from what Georgetown's ever seen.
Yeah.
Probably the same thing with the port, and unless that heavy industry comes to IP, that's going to be different than we've seen. Some people, we've got two different groups with two different concerns about all this that's going to happen. We've got people that love the historic district.
Yeah.
And they're concerned that now the focus is going to be on new stuff. And the thing that's made Georgetown what it is, the historic district, is going to get less and less attention. Then we've got the group of residents who live in the West End that are worried that once all this new stuff develops, that they'll be priced out of their homes because of property values. What do you say to the two groups that have these two different concerns about development? Okay.
Let's separate them individually. Okay. Remind me West End, because I'll forget.
Okay.
The character of our city, the historic city that is paramount in anything that we do. So, and we're going through a rewrite of the zoning right now, and we a couple of months ago embarked on a uniform development ordinance where we're combining zoning, land planning, and the ARB into one cohesive, reciprocal type of zoning document. Speaking as myself, I would like to maintain our character. We are not going to build historic buildings. That's not going to happen.
Right.
They're here, they're existing. What we are going to do is take that vernacular, and by maintaining the Community Appearance Board and the ARB, as we develop that commercial zone. Imagine Front Street going down to South Fraser, turning left, and the frontage of whatever that development is. I expect it to embrace the historic character of the city at street front. As it steps behind, that can change a little bit, right? But it still has to relate. That synergy has to be there. When it steps further behind, it's on the water, I expect it to be there too. So the ARB and the CAB are going to have purview over all that development. That's how we're going to maintain that, right? I have nothing against Mount Pleasant. In fact, the city manager there was so helpful in educating me on the city hall that they built. But that's probably more retail and more traffic than we want here. But
I guess what I think about is Charleston, Mount Pleasant. No,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody wants Mount Pleasant here,
Yeah.
but Charleston.
Yeah.
It is a big city. It's got a lot of new. It's got a lot of modern, but the marketplace, the historic areas
Yeah.
are still a big focus.
Absolutely.
For people. So you think that's what we'll see in Georgetown, even if we get a lot of new. There'll still be a historic district focus.
Absolutely. Well, the historic district will always be the historic district, and we have to treasure that, we have to embrace it, and we have to continue to cultivate it. Right now, the county has almost a block of buildings that are vacant right now, right? And what I've been told is they're waiting for the stormwater project to complete, and then they're going to put that on the market. I hope that's the case.
You go ahead.
I hope that's the case because there's more opportunity for merchants to come on to Front Street. I won't say we have a waiting list, but we have a lot of clamor for people that want to come to Georgetown in all aspects of this. It's not just Front Street, but also in housing as well. So, but that's how we have to maintain that character. With regard to the West End,
Yeah, we hear the word gentrification.
Let's talk about that.
And there's a big concern about that. I mean, we have seen it in the county in the past. Pawleys Island, Litchfield used to be, small houses with, middle of the low income families, and now it's car lots and Sonics, and very few houses. So, I mean, how do we keep that from happening here?
and I'm just going to speak for myself, and I'm not an expert in gentrification. When I first came to office, I met with some folks over on Hawthorne Street. And the discussion I had was, we just want a normal neighborhood. We want people to clean up their houses. We want quiet enjoyment. This wanted a normal house. The biggest challenge the West End has to gentrification is the West End, in my opinion. What does that mean? It's the amount of absentee ownership. We took down about 20 houses. We demolished about 20 houses through a grant. But there's a lot of property there that is owned by people from out of town. And I guess they're just sitting on it, right, for the future. That's not really fair to the residents of the West End. There should be new houses there. There should be more activity there, but there isn't. And unfortunately, that's going to leave them exposed to your concern. Now, that said, we put the city hall over there for a reason, because we want to stimulate growth. But nobody's going to drop in a movie theater in the middle of the West End, right? They're going to take that frontage there where our new city hall is in South Fraser, and that'll be developed, and it will hopefully provide them those opportunities. But I would love to see an answer to the absentee ownership and the heirs issues, because that is, I think, is really hurting the West End the most.
Crime in the city. It's been a big topic lately. We've had a lot of gun incidents. The city police department, I think Chief Pierce said, is basically at its allotted number. They basically are where they should be. But it's been speculated they may need to increase that number. Do you think that's possible to get more officers do we have the budget for it? Can it happen?
I think if we have the need, we find the money. And I think at the last community meeting over there on High Market Street, Jonathan Engner was sitting next to me, and he told the chief, you need an officer, we'll find the money.
That's why I'm asking that, because he didn't say where the money would come from.
Well, it's funny. Yeah. For years and years and years before we took office, there were enough policemen, there were enough firemen. We spent almost $4 million, I think, in terms of salaries to get competitive wages out there. We are fully staffed now.
Right.
They have a job to do. The reporting system that the police department uses is the same one as the county. So it actually dictates based on the crimes where the strongest police presence should be. If it comes to a point where we don't have enough police staff to support those datum points, then we will find the officers. That's our fiduciary responsibility to the citizens of Georgetown.
Well, people are going to start voting October 20th and continue to do so through November 4th. What you want to say to them as they're trying to decide who am I going to vote for?
I just want them to get out and vote. I mean, that's so important. I think we have done a good job. I mean, I think it's hard to argue against all the ground that we have covered. And if you look at what the future holds for Georgetown and the challenges, you need some very strong, experienced council members and mayor in there fighting for you. And we're going to be fighting for everybody, as we have done since we took office.